Whitney was in the middle of Greatest Love of All when a desperate mother's scream cut through the music at the Apollo Theater. What she did next had never been done before in her entire career. It was December 15, 1987 in Harlem, New York. Whitney was performing an intimate surprise show at the legendary Apollo Theater, where she'd first performed as a teenager with her mother, Cissy Houston. The theater was packed with 1,400 devoted fans who'd waited hours in the December cold just for a chance to see the voice up close. She'd already set the crowd on fire with "I Want to Dance with Somebody," "How Will I Know," and "Saving All My Love for You." Now she was deep into her signature song, the one that had become an anthem of self-empowerment for millions. The golden lights bathed the stage as Whitney poured her soul into every note. But what none of them knew was that in the balcony section sat a 9-year-old girl who wasn't supposed to live to see her 10th birthday. If this incredible story moves you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because we've got more untold stories about music's greatest legends. Jasmine Williams was fighting a battle no child should ever face. The aggressive brain tumor that had been destroying her body for 18 months was finally winning. Her doctors at Harlem Hospital had given her family the devastating news: less than 4 weeks to live. Her parents, Angela and Robert Williams, had made the impossible decision to take her out of the hospital for one final dream. Jasmine had been obsessed with Whitney Houston since she was 6 years old. Her hospital room was covered with Whitney posters, and even during her worst chemotherapy sessions, she would ask the nurses to play "Greatest Love of All" to help her through the pain. "Mama, before I go to heaven, I want to hear Whitney sing for me," Jasmine had whispered days earlier. "I want to show her my music notebook where I write songs about being strong." Angela had tried to explain that Whitney concerts were impossible to get tickets for, but Robert Williams, a subway maintenance worker, had spent every penny of their savings and called in every favor. That afternoon, a friend who worked Apollo security had managed to get them in through a last-minute cancellation. Jasmine was so weak that Robert had to carry her to the balcony. She was wearing her favorite white dress and a white knit hat to cover her lost hair. In her small white purse was a notebook filled with song lyrics she'd written, inspired by Whitney's message of self-love. For the first hour, Jasmine was in pure heaven despite her pain. She was mouthing along to every song, her small voice lost in the roar of 1,400 people, but her joy visible to anyone watching. Angela kept checking Jasmine's pulse, terrified the excitement might be too much. "This is the best night of my whole life, Mama," she whispered during a break between songs. Angela fought back tears, knowing this would likely be Jasmine's last truly joyful moment. When the opening piano notes of "Greatest Love of All" began echoing through the Apollo, Jasmine's face lit up with impossible energy. This was her absolute favorite Whitney song, the one she'd practiced on her toy keyboard for years. Whitney emerged wearing an elegant white gown that seemed to make her glow. She was in her element, her voice soaring through those famous opening lines about children being our future. She was halfway through the song when it happened. From the balcony section, a woman's voice cut through the music like a knife. It was Angela Williams, screaming with the desperation of a mother who had nothing left to lose. "Whitney, please! My daughter is dying. She loves you so much." What nobody expected was what Whitney did next. Whitney stopped mid-note, her voice echoing through the Apollo's acoustics. She looked confused, squinting through the stage lights, trying to locate the voice. The band gradually quieted but kept playing softly. The theater began to quiet as people realized something unusual was happening. Whitney raised her hand to her band, signaling them to stop completely. "Ma'am," Whitney said, her voice carrying clearly through the sound system. "What did you say?" Angela, tears streaming down her face, lifted Jasmine as high as she could so Whitney could see her. "This is my daughter, Jasmine," she called out, her voice breaking. "She's 9 years old and dying from a brain tumor. The doctors say maybe 3 weeks left. All she wanted was to hear you sing 'Greatest Love of All.' She writes songs about being strong, just like you taught her." The Apollo was completely silent, except for the sound equipment's hum. Whitney stood at the stage edge looking up at this tiny girl in a white dress who was clearly fighting for her life. What happened next stunned everyone in that legendary theater. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Whitney called out gently, her voice softer than anyone had heard in public. Despite her weakness, Jasmine spoke loudly enough to carry. Jasmine Williams. I love you, Whitney. I write songs about being brave like you taught me. Those words from a dying 9-year-old hit Whitney like a physical blow. The artist known for powerful performances suddenly looked vulnerable, human, deeply moved. What Whitney did next had never been done in the Apollo's history. She turned to her band and said something shocking. Clear a path. Bring them down here. Within minutes, something unprecedented was happening. Whitney's security team was escorting the Williams family through the crowd, creating a pathway from balcony to stage. Jasmine was barely conscious, but awake enough to realize something miraculous was happening. Are we really going to meet Whitney? She whispered. Yes, baby, Angela said, crying. Yes, we are. When Whitney helped lift 9-year-old Jasmine Williams onto the Apollo stage, 1,400 people fell silent. The sight of Whitney kneeling to be at eye level with an obviously dying little girl was so powerful that nobody knew how to react. Ladies and gentlemen, Whitney said into her microphone, voice thick with emotion, I want you to meet my friend Jasmine Williams. Jasmine is 9 years old and she's been fighting the bravest battle anyone could fight. She writes songs about being strong and brave. Tonight, Jasmine is going to help me finish this song. The theater erupted, but it wasn't usual screaming and cheering. It was respectful, emotional applause, the kind when people witness something sacred. Whitney gently sat Jasmine at the piano bench beside her. Despite everything she was going through, Jasmine looked out at 1,400 people focused on her and smiled the biggest smile her mother had seen in over a year. Jasmine has been writing her own songs about self-love, Whitney announced. Would you like to hear some of her words with my music? What happened next was pure magic. As Whitney began playing Greatest Love of All again, slower and more intimate, Jasmine placed her tiny hands on the keys beside Whitney's. She couldn't really play, but Whitney guided her fingers to the right notes, making it look like they were performing together. The sight of Whitney Houston and a dying 9-year-old girl playing piano together on the Apollo stage was so beautiful and heartbreaking that there wasn't a dry eye in the theater. People who'd been celebrating were now openly sobbing. As Whitney sang, she incorporated some of Jasmine's lyrics from her notebook. Simple but profound words about finding strength when scared, about loving yourself when your body is sick. Learning to love yourself, Whitney sang, looking at Jasmine. It is the greatest love of all. And Jasmine, you are love itself. Then something more magical occurred. Jasmine, despite her weakness, began singing along. Her small, fragile voice blended with Whitney's powerful vocals in a way that was both beautiful and devastating. The entire Apollo began singing too, quietly, respectfully, turning Greatest Love of All into a gentle anthem for a dying little girl. When the song ended, Whitney did something legendary. She took off her elegant white shawl and wrapped it around Jasmine's tiny shoulders. This is yours now, she whispered, though the microphone picked it up. Every time you wear it, remember that you are loved, strong, and beautiful exactly as you are. But the story doesn't end there. As Whitney prepared to help Jasmine back to her parents, the little girl reached into her white purse and pulled out her notebook, filled with lyrics about courage and hope. For you, Jasmine whispered, handing it to Whitney, so you can remember me and maybe sing my words someday. Whitney broke down crying right there on stage. The powerful vocalist known for composure was on her knees, hugging a dying child while tears streamed down her face. You're not going anywhere, Whitney said into the microphone, voice breaking. You're going to fight this, Jasmine, and I'm going to help you every step of the way. Whitney finished the concert with Jasmine's notebook clutched to her chest, dedicating every remaining song to my friend Jasmine, who teaches us what real strength looks like. After the show, Whitney spent 4 hours with the Williams family in her dressing room. She signed photographs, gave Jasmine one of her personal golden microphones, and made a shocking promise. I'm going to visit you every day while you're in the hospital. Here comes the incredible part nobody could have predicted. Whitney kept her promise. For the next 3 weeks, Whitney visited Jasmine at Harlem Hospital every day. She'd arrive evenings when the hospital was quiet, bringing her portable keyboard. She'd sit by Jasmine's bed, playing acoustic versions of songs, teaching vocal techniques that didn't strain her weakened body. But here's the most incredible part. Jasmine Williams didn't die in 3 weeks or 3 months or even 3 years. Something about that night, whether it was the excitement, the love from 1,400 strangers, or just having her biggest dream come true, seemed to give Jasmine strength that doctors couldn't explain. After that night, Dr. Sarah Martinez, Jasmine's oncologist, said years later, something changed in Jasmine's body chemistry. Her brain scans showed improvement. Her body began responding to treatments that hadn't worked before. Medically, I can't explain it, but that child's will to live became superhuman after meeting Whitney. The transformation was miraculous. Jasmine lived for another 8 years after that Apollo concert. 8 years doctors said were medically impossible. 8 years filled with music lessons Whitney paid for, birthday cards she never forgot, and front row seats to every Whitney concert within 300 miles of New York. During those 8 years, Jasmine became like a little sister to Whitney. She'd call every few weeks, and whenever Whitney was in New York, she'd visit. Jasmine appeared on stage with Whitney 4 more times, including her legendary 1991 Madison Square Garden show, where she sang backing vocals on Greatest Love of All. After that night, Angela Williams said years later, Jasmine wasn't afraid of dying anymore. She knew she was loved by Whitney and all those people who sang with her. It gave her such peace, such strength to keep fighting. When Jasmine finally passed away in 1995 at age 17, she was wearing the white shawl Whitney had given her that magical December night. She'd grown so much that it fit perfectly. In her hands was the golden microphone, now covered with stickers and signatures from every musician who'd visited over the years. Whitney was devastated by Jasmine's death. She canceled 3 shows and flew back to New York for the funeral. What happened at that funeral became another legendary Whitney moment. Whitney performed Greatest Love of All at Jasmine's funeral, but this time with Jasmine's own lyrics, the ones from that notebook given 8 years earlier. The lyrics were simple but profound. Learning to love yourself when your body hurts, finding the strength when the doctors say it's bad, knowing you're beautiful even when you're bald, that's the greatest love of all. The Williams family later revealed that Whitney had secretly paid for Jasmine's medical treatments for all 8 years. She'd also established a music therapy program at Harlem Hospital in Jasmine's name, ensuring other sick children could experience music's healing power. The ripple effect continues today. The Jasmine Williams Music Healing Foundation, established by Whitney in 1996, has helped over 12,000 children with life-threatening illnesses. The foundation provides free music lessons, instruments, and music therapy sessions to children in hospitals nationwide. Whitney never wanted publicity for this work. Jasmine changed me, Angela Williams reveals Whitney told her. She showed me that music wasn't just entertainment, it was medicine, hope, love in its purest form. The foundation's motto, written by Whitney, every child deserves to hear their own greatest love song. In 2012, weeks before Whitney's death, she made one final visit to Jasmine's grave in Woodlawn Cemetery. The groundskeeper witnessed Whitney sitting by the headstone for over an hour, singing Greatest Love of All softly. She kept saying, "Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you for teaching me what music is really for." After Whitney's death, the Williams family received a package from Whitney's estate. Inside was a letter Whitney had written but never sent, dated February 10, 2012, the day before she died. Dear Angela and Robert, Jasmine saved my life as much as I might have extended hers. That night at the Apollo, I was struggling with my own battles, my own pain, my own doubts about whether my music really mattered. When I saw Jasmine's face, heard her voice, everything became clear. Music isn't about selling records or winning awards. It's about touching one soul at a time. Jasmine taught me that. Her courage, her joy despite pain, her pure love for music, it reminded me why I started singing. Every song I've sung since has had a little bit of Jasmine in it. Every time I performed Greatest Love of All, I saw her sitting at that piano, tiny hands on those keys, fighting for every breath but still singing. Thank you for sharing your angel with me. She might have only lived 17 years, but she changed my life forever. And through the foundation, she continues changing lives every day. Until I see Jasmine again, Whitney P.S. I still have her notebook. I've read those lyrics 1,000 times. She was a better songwriter than she knew. What the public never knew was that Whitney had been quietly visiting sick children for the rest of her career, inspired entirely by Jasmine. She'd show up at hospitals unannounced, often late at night, singing acoustic sets for children too sick to attend concerts. Dr. Patricia Johnson, who worked at Harlem Hospital for 25 years, estimates Whitney visited over 800 sick children between 1987 and 2012. She never wanted publicity. She never brought cameras. She just wanted to give these kids what she'd given Jasmine, a moment of magic, a reason to keep fighting. One child was Marcus Thompson, who met Whitney in 2005 while dying from leukemia. Whitney told me about Jasmine. Marcus, now 28 and cancer-free, recalls. She said Jasmine taught her that music could heal, that love could literally save lives. Then she sang "Greatest Love of All" for me and told me I was going to make it. Somehow I believed her, and somehow I did. Today there's a small plaque at the Apollo. On December 15, 1987, Whitney Houston stopped her show to lift up 9-year-old Jasmine Williams. That night we all learned what music is really for. In memory of Jasmine Williams, 1978 to 1995, and all the children who remind us that love is stronger than pain. Every major artist who plays the Apollo sees that plaque and asks about the story. When they hear about Whitney and Jasmine, something changes in how they approach their performances. That story is why the Apollo is sacred ground, says Alicia Keys. It's not just where legends were made. It's where Whitney showed us that fame means nothing if you don't use it to lift others up. Perhaps the most incredible part was discovered in 2018 when Whitney's estate released unheard recordings. Among them was a version of "Greatest Love of All," recorded December 16, 1987, the day after she met Jasmine. In this version, you can hear Whitney crying as she sings. Her voice breaks multiple times. At the end, barely audible, she whispers, "That's for you, Jasmine. Keep fighting, little angel." Music historians consider this the most emotionally powerful recording Whitney ever made. It's never been officially released out of respect for the Williams family, but those who've heard it say it's impossible to listen without crying. Angela Williams, now 71, still visits the Apollo on December 15th every year. "I stand in the same spot where I screamed out to Whitney," she says, "and I thank her for giving my baby 8 more years. 8 years of music, joy, love." Whitney didn't just perform for Jasmine, she gave her a reason to live. The foundation has expanded to 18 countries, providing over 75,000 instruments to sick children and funding music therapy in 250 hospitals. Every child gets a small golden pin with Jasmine's favorite Whitney quote, "Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all." Dr. Michelle Chen, who runs the foundation, was saved by the program as a child. "I met Whitney when I was dying from cancer in 2001, she explains. "She told me about Jasmine, about how she fought for 8 years when doctors gave her 3 weeks. She said if Jasmine could do it, so could I. And here I am, 23 years later, helping other kids find their own greatest love." Foundation research proves children receiving music therapy during serious illness have 45% better survival rates. Jasmine's legacy isn't just emotional, Dr. Chen notes, it's medical. She proved that hope, love, and music can literally save lives. In 2023, Whitney's estate revealed one more secret. Whitney had recorded an entire album based on Jasmine's notebook lyrics. Songs from an Angel features 10 tracks with Whitney's music set to Jasmine's childhood poetry. The Williams family will release it with proceeds going to the foundation. Jasmine always wanted to be a songwriter, Angela says. Now, 28 years after she left us, her words will be heard around the world, sung by the artist she loved most. The album's opening track features 9-year-old Jasmine singing with Whitney from that Apollo night. Audio engineers isolated her voice from an audience member's recording. For 4 minutes and 32 seconds, you hear Jasmine Williams and Whitney Houston singing together, their voices blending in a moment transcending time, pain, and death itself. People there that night say it changed them forever. "I went to see Whitney perform," recalls Janet Martinez, who was 25 then, "but I witnessed a miracle. When Whitney put that dying little girl at her piano, when 1,400 strangers sang 'Greatest Love of All,' like a prayer for her life, I understood what humanity could be at its best. Bootleg recordings of that night are among the most treasured Whitney recordings, not for music quality, but because they captured when Whitney Houston revealed her true self. And what was revealed was pure love. Whitney was never the same after meeting Jasmine, says Robin Crawford, Whitney's longtime friend. She'd always been generous, but after Jasmine, her music had different purpose. It wasn't about success anymore. It was about connection, healing, love. The story of Whitney and Jasmine reminds us that sometimes the most important moments happen when we stop what we're doing and pay attention to what really matters. Whitney could have ignored Angela's desperate plea. She could have finished her song and gone home. Instead, she chose compassion over convention, human connection over professional obligation. In doing so, she gave a dying little girl 8 more years of life, 1,400 people a memory they'd carry forever. And all of us a reminder that fame means nothing if we don't use it to help others. Jasmine Williams died in 1995, but her legacy lives on in every child who picks up an instrument in a hospital bed, in every note of healing music played in cancer wards worldwide, and in everyone's heart who believes love is stronger than pain. Whitney stopped her show for Jasmine Williams, but really Jasmine saved Whitney's show by reminding her and all of us what performing is about. It's not about lights, screaming fans, or record sales. It's about connection between human beings. It's about using whatever gifts we have to make someone else's life brighter. Sometimes, if we're very lucky, it's about giving a dying little girl strength to live 8 more years by showing her she's loved by 1,400 strangers and the voice herself. Every child deserves their own greatest love song, Whitney once said. Jasmine taught me that music isn't just sound. It's hope, medicine, love. And love, real love, can literally save lives. Whitney's last known performance of Greatest Love of All was Beverly Hills, February 9, 2012, 2 days before her death. At the song's end, barely audible, she said, "That one was for Jasmine." It's always for Jasmine. Somewhere, perhaps, a 9-year-old girl in a white shawl, too big for her, is still singing along. Her voice eternal, her legacy infinite, her greatest love falling on sick children worldwide, healing them one note at a time. If this incredible story moved you, subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this with someone who needs to hear about putting people before performance. Have you witnessed someone stop everything to help another person? What's your favorite Whitney memory? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to ring that notification bell for more amazing true stories about the heart behind music's greatest legends. Remember, every child deserves their own greatest love song. Just like Jasmine taught Whitney, sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest miracles.